I knew he had made them in the last year of his life. I didn't realize how incapacitated he was. Here's a guy who's just stubbornly trying to continue making work, and he's completely paralyzed on one side of his body and his legs. So here's a guy rolling around with one arm, and he sent the assistant away after a day and kept working, trying to sling this paper and plates and ink around. And it was interesting. I took some closer looks at Gottlieb's prints, and I noticed that he did have roller lines and brayer lines on his larger fields of color on some of them. And so he must have been using a very small roller to be able to do it with his one good arm. But then also wiping away. It had to be a challenge for him. Every little part, you have to hold that plate and keep it still to wipe that stiff ink off of there. It's not easy. And then for him, there would have been the additional challenge of taking that piece of paper, placing the plate on the press in the right place, and then registering the paper by laying it down in the right place. Now, I don't know if he had help, but it seems like he did a lot of this alone, and it would have been quite an undertaking for him to go from one piece of the process to the next and get a beautiful result and a consistent result in the case of 3 prints that look similar. So it's very challenging. Even with a little help, I'm sure he was challenged by it. It was just the most moving thing to realize how determined he was to keep working and to keep being engaged and to just put it down, and then sort of reviewing the phases of his work as an artist in that 9 months or whatever it was. Just very moving. That was my first impression. I think the real basic reason these varieties of handmade printmaking are still happening is because the reason for it lives in the nature of the physical object. It has a different look than anything produced mechanically. That's it. How many generations of people worked on this, what is really a simple technology? It's just the wheel with handles. How many generations of people worked on that to get it right? I don't know, but it's mesmerizing. And also the sound of the ink, the tack, when she's rolling it back and forth. Shh, shh, shh. The tack of that ink, it's a beautiful sound. It's wonderful to just watch and listen. It's very direct, and even though you're putting it through a press, there's a sense of the hand, but also the quality of a print is very different from paint, which sits on top of paper. So when these things, even when I've done them loosely with my hand, are put through the press, they're melded with the paper, and it has a very different feel than painting. So that would be one good reason to do it, is just simply that the quality of the physical thing is very different than any other kind of work on paper. Interesting. Yeah. And his images were so elemental and essential. A circle, a cross, which could have stood for any number of things symbolically, but they were still completely abstract. So he was working in a world of form that was wide open and could have a strong impact. So look at how big that mind is in his wheelchair and his one good arm. Amazing.